Welcome back to another episode of InPodSicated with Big Z in the house. A good old friend from back in the day. Man, we go back, Jesus Christ, 40 years now? No, 30 years. 30 years, right?
About 30 years.
30 years, yeah. It would be 95.
That's right.
Yeah, Miguel Alvia. No, I keep saying the L. Why do I want to say the L?
You know why? Because everybody says Avila.
Avila.
It's Alvia.
Alvia. Miguel Alvia.
Miguel Ángel Alvia.
Yeah, recording artist.
Yes. Well,
we'll get into that soon. We got to get into that story. We'll get into that story soon. But obviously, you see the product on the table right here, Dat Slush. Yeah, so get into the go ahead, get the spiel out the way. Tell people where they can get this. Let's get into the promo real quick.
Okay, so Dat Slush, we started it back in May of 2020. So this year will be 5 years.
Wow,
5 years. I know, right? It's like
it flies by.
It does fly by.
Yeah, you started when we started podcasting. You started doing this.
I did. So the story behind it is that I was Logan Square Media.
Yeah.
I have my business partner who's Bow Tender.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in the industry space, obviously helping out bars, restaurants, things of that nature. But as everybody knows, all the bars and restaurants closed down in 2020.
Yeah.
So what I decided to do was seeing that there was bartenders that were doing their own cocktails and sorts for the summertime.
Yeah.
I came up with the idea of saying, okay, look, I want to do slushies and I want to do them in a pouch. And the reason why I want to do them in a pouch, because it's unique, it's different, it's a nostalgia play to people that are from Mexico or from any part of Latin America where they do piraguas.
Yeah.
Right.
Or in the United States, if you're a Capri Sun fan.
Absolutely. That's what people look at it too. They say oh, it's a Capri Sun
For adults.
But so I decided to start doing that and came up with the name. I called it Dat Slush because I wanted people to, when they see the packaging, they're like, what is that? They're gonna say, what is that? And I'm like, oh, that's Dat Slush.
Got it.
Oh, so it's a play on words.
Correct.
Right? It's spelled DAT with dat.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an exclamation point, true story, with the logo, but people kept saying Dati. It was like daddy. I was like, whoa. So yeah, it kind of went.
It could have worked. It could have worked.
It did work for quite some time, but I was more all right, let's see how everything happens. And I decided to trademark the logo.
Nice.
Trademark the name. And that took over a year, by the way. I recommend anybody in business who has a brand or a logo to do those things.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it was more of the fact that I had to remove the exclamation point so that people wouldn't not be able to read it, right? Just in general.
Simplify it, right.
Simplify the process, do all that stuff. And then I did that, and Dat Slush was born. So anyways, going back to 2020, it was because of the pandemic, everything shut down, and we started to do slushies to go in a sense. What the concept was to come up with something that was more organic based, more of the flavors of what it is that when you go to Latin America, you do get that experience and kind of try something that's so different from here because everything here is processed.
Right. And if people don't know, you go to Latin America, everything's infused with natural fruits.
Absolutely.
Right. So,
pulps,
pulps. Yes,
juices,
exactly.
Everything.
And that's why it tastes better. And that's why it's just a better product overall.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So the goal in mind was to kickstart it. Once we started to come up with recipes, I kind of went into the process of saying, okay, in a business mindset, I decided to not use just your regular common whole jiggers and things of that to measure out the ounces of certain things.
All right.
So something that my business partner was not necessarily accustomed to. And then I said, we have to measure every ounce because in business, every ounce counts.
And it's money.
Every ounce counts. If you're in a restaurant business, the bar business, every ounce matters. So what I decided to do was, transition it to use those things, and the measurements had to be precise and exact for our recipes. So our recipes, obviously, we started to come up with different concepts and flavors. I decided to start naming what we were making at the same time. And, I came in my experience and being in the industry space, which we'll probably touch on. Right.
Yeah. We'll get into this.
We'll get into it. So I kind of just started to tell bartenders exactly what I was looking for. And at times I would start creating certain things, in my 2018 to let's say like 2001 going all the way now till now, right?
Mhm.
I didn't realize it at the time, but in 2018 is when I realized that I was more of doing consulting, marketing,
Right. Yeah.
promotions, creatives, all that stuff, right?
Mhm.
So I started to be a consultant necessarily for like different restaurant groups and like businesses. And it kind of just took off in a way where my expertise in the sense of or my experience,
Experience,
right?
right?
My
Yeah.
experience. I never want to say I'm an expert because there's so many other people that are probably better than me in what I do, right? So humbling in the sense, but like that's what I kind of went through. I kind of went through that process of like creating something, and for me, it was just something more of um, kind of creating the recipes and like making something that was different, unique, taking a bit of Latin America culture because obviously we're Latinos and
Mhm.
we have to do that. And that's what I decided to come up with. So the nectars you talked about, the different styles of like making those recipes and using pulps and juices, fresh lime juice, cutting up fruits, starting off with blenders, and
Right.
then transitioning obviously as we scaled up to kind of go into a different space like that for using our machines now and all that.
Mhm.
But the process is it's typically similar, just depending on obviously like everybody, like the outcome of what people would want to go to for their business or whatever event they might utilize it for. So that's what it kind of transitioned to, and thank God it's been going great up until this point.
So you've got your idea, I mean your big idea. You've got the process of how to measure out everything now, and every ounce counts, as we you alluded to it earlier. You put these recipes together. All right, how do you get this pouch? Like, what is the story behind the pouch? Because this is something you can't find out. Can't go to Costco or can you go to Amazon and get this kind of stuff? Like, I don't want to give your secrets away, but like, where does the idea for like, I want this pouch to be so many ounces, I want it to look like this, I want this type of material to be durable? Where does that concept come from?
The concept honestly came from just me ideating it. What you see right now, like
Mhm.
even the design, the logo, the actual label, like people say, "Oh, who designed that?" I actually designed it myself. The creative, the shirts, the way it's supposed to look. It was important for me to create something nostalgic in the
Mhm.
sense, right? You mentioned it before. You said it was like Capri Suns, and people referenced it that way.
Mhm.
And at first, we started off obviously with our boozy slushy concepts. It's now grown and evolved. Where like when the parents were seeing with these,
Mhm.
guess what? Now the kids are looking at it and being like, "I want what mom and dad have," right?
Yeah.
So as the business evolved, I started to understand that it was also important for me to include that side of it and not just stay with the boozy slushy concept at the end of the day.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it definitely does. Definitely does. You wanted a certain look. Understand? So
Yeah,
yeah, and you want something that you can put your label on it and it's readable from across the room. Like, oh, what is that? Oh, it's that slush.
exactly.
And that's what you want. That's what you exactly want. Is you want someone to bring up a question like, that looks interesting. I want to know more about that. And again, it's an attention grabber. Boom. Now you start a conversation. This is where you can get it. This is where it's available. These are the new flavors and all that. So that's pretty awesome, dude. This is probably one of the best products out there. I am a fan. I'm definitely a fan.
Thank you. By the way, he is a fan. He is a fan.
5 years of drinking that. Right now, I'm drinking my little energy drink to pep me up. But let's rewind it back all the way. Let's go back into the old school.
What we're gonna do right here is go back.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So for people who don't know, we both went to Lane Tech,
Yes.
and we were in the same division, and it was all the way to what, 95? Yeah, summer of 95.
95 to 99.
99, right?
Class of 99.
Best
Shout
cla-
out to class of 99.
Best class ever. Definitely. And we're in division. And you're like, hey man, what's up, man? And it was just pretty much friends at first sight. And we've been friends for what, 30 years now. So it's amazing. But talk to me about your experience, because everyone has a different experience at Lane Tech, going through your adolescence, growing up, meeting new friends. Obviously, a lot of us were coming in from different neighborhoods, and that whole melting pot. Tell me about your experience at Lane Tech.
Okay, so my experience at Lane Tech is like, wow. The reason why is because in the house that I grew up in and all that, down the block there is a Lutheran school
Okay.
and a church, and I went there. The story just quickly behind that is that there's a Catholic church across the street, but unfortunately my mom didn't want me to cross the street. Obviously, I was engaged, so like we went to the one in the corner without crossing the street, because who knows, you can get hit by a car.
Oh my goodness!
You know how that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very similar in the sense of what they were teaching about, and I went there, and I did very well in the sense of my school studies because I always loved like the educational process and learning from things. And the way they kind of saw it was that I was just an advanced student, right? I was going to be taking advanced classes and all that, mathematics and English and everything else, science and all that. And I graduated as a valedictorian from there. So
nice.
That literally kind of like put me like just to get into Lane Tech.
Yeah, that puts you up. Yeah, that puts you on a high road to Lane Tech, because they'd be like, all right, yeah, you don't need to take a test. Come on in.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So I did not test when I went.
Nor did I.
And when I went there, I got accepted. I didn't apply to any other high schools. True story. And I had my faith that God was going to take me there. And as I got there, then that was the whoa moment, because the way I felt is I went straight to college. The reason why is because Lane Tech has over 4,000 plus students at that time. I don't even know where it's at now, by the way.
Yeah, they got 7th and 8th grade now mixed in there.
Okay, so that's even more.
It's probably 5,000. Right? Yeah.
Okay. So for me, it was getting introduced to something that I felt was important for me to experience, but at the same time, it's also like a mini college for me, right? So I started to make a bunch of friends and obviously get close to people that were doing certain things, and the cool kids and then not the cool kids, and I was considered more like the in between in the sense, right? I was also a bigger dude, so I was not as skinny in the sense that I am now. And the bullying and stuff like that happened, and everything goes on with that. But the reason why I'm in a whoa moment is because I felt that was my experience to focus on what was happening growing up in that type of like community space, you can say, right? And I never had that. So it's a culture shock in the sense for me of like getting introduced to many different individuals which I don't know. I don't know how to go about it, because the class of 99 has a lot of very
famous people,
famous and successful people,
yes,
and in the industry space and all that. And it's like, I'm so privileged and blessed to be in that category of like people, and in that inner circle of friends. We all, every time we see each other, we kind of like stay connected, or we're like, oh my gosh, like,
I kind of do the same. When I'm talking to my students, or I talk to people that don't know about Lane Tech, I'm like, I talk to my Lane friends more than I do my college friends. And it's usually the opposite, right? People get connected with their college friends, and that's what they do. And they still could, hang out and go to college games. I didn't have that experience. My college was Lane Tech. And I can tell you, like, everyone is still super connected. We had Jessica on the show earlier. Otto's going to be on another episode. Yeah, it definitely. Oh, we had Rose on as well. She's the DJ.
Yeah,
she was on. Again, we've had multiple people that have been very successful, and that's what I do now, is I just highlight people that I love and I've come across, and it's just I want to introduce everybody, the world, to them. So you have the experience of being a valedictorian. I'm assuming that your elementary, grammar school, whatever you want, junior high, whatever you want to call it now, was very Latino. Or was it mixed?
So no, actually, the place that I was in, it's all kind of tied and connected together, because even some of the people that we went to high school with, right, they were connected with some of the people that I graduated here from.
Okay.
And very multicultural in the sense of like getting that from everything. It was a mix. It was like Caucasian, there was Latinos, there was African Americans.
You're talking about your junior high?
well, my junior high in the sense was you're talking about like Lane Tech or
No, I'm talking about your junior high.
I didn't have junior high. Junior high for me was just the school that I went to.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Where you graduated.
Yeah.
Was it primarily like mostly Latino, right?
No,
it was a little bit of everything.
It was a mix, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And the class wasn't as big. Like we only had, I think, 12. I think graduated.
Okay, this is a very small class.
Very small class, but nevertheless, it was still something that we all kind of kept close.
Yeah,
right, growing up and all that stuff like that, and then the connections are still there, which will tie in a bit.
Yeah, I mean, because those are your neighborhood kids that those are lifelong friends, right? Yes. And I get that because I had the similar thing where I went to a grammar school, then a junior high, and then pretty much everybody from junior high went to Lane Tech, and then we just continued on. Then we went to college together and all that stuff. But it's really, and if people can't, I'm trying to paint the picture here, but it's like literally swimming in your backyard in a little kiddie pool and then getting tossed into the ocean. That's the dynamic it was of going from a junior high, and I had a medium-sized junior high. I think we had like maybe 150 graduates, whatever. But then going to a school of 4,000. And I don't know about you, but the night before, I'm over here studying the 4-page map. 4-page map.
4.
Yeah. And if you don't know, it's the third largest campus in the state of Illinois.
It looks like a small university.
It does look like a small university. Yeah,
bigger than some of the community colleges.
100% it is. So yeah. And then what was your major?
In
Lane Tech, yeah.
I think it was
because you had to pick a major.
Honestly, I don't remember now.
No,
but the focus was for me was math and I think it was math and science.
You probably math and science. Okay.
Math and science. I think that's what it was.
I was applied technology, so I was a shop guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I did have all the shop.
Yes, you were required to do 2 years of shop, but my major was 4 years of shop.
4 years of shop. Okay.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved working my hands.
And see, that's the thing that I was going to kind of get into.
Yeah.
Was that experience was actually a good experience. I understand from conversations of alumni and things of that nature that they don't really have those classes like that anymore.
No, right? That's pretty much taken out.
Which is unfortunate because it does set some common, like simple things that you can do with working with tools and
there are life skills. There are life skills that you need to learn, like how to change a pipe in case it breaks in your sink, how to change a tire. How to repair something like an electrical, how to change an electrical switch.
Yes.
Like these are all things that you can do at home and don't have to pay someone $80, $100, $150 an hour to do something that can take them 10 minutes. You're like, man, this is so expensive. Well, you're paying for experience. You're not paying for the process of doing it.
That is true.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's talk about your freshman year. You're saying you were a bigger guy. Were you always like a chunkier adolescent?
Yeah. So the story to that is that my grandmother, rest in peace, I love her to death, by the way. She was an amazing cook, but the portions in the sense of what we do in Latino culture is that they cook for like a party, basically.
they cook for an army, and your plate is full and you can't leave the table till the plate is gone.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think in the sense growing up, it was something of me kind of going as like the stresses of the world and all that, right? Like maybe that's what it was for me to kind of eat and all that.
Right.
And I just had that type of lifestyle in a way where I was just introduced to it. And it wasn't until like my junior year, went back to my elementary school, which, I still play basketball at, by the way, that I just went to a summer where I just decided to dedicate myself to losing the weight that I had accumulated. The boiling point for me was that I got to 255 pounds. Okay. 255 pounds. And with 255 pounds, I was looking at myself and I paid the consequences now. Why? Because in my side, I actually have, the stretch marks. I have some of the loose skin, things of that nature, which at the time I was very, I was very self-conscious about that, right?
Yeah, definitely you would be.
And I didn't understand the scenario until now. And then now for me, it's like, I just kind of like learned to adapt to it. Right. And obviously I still work out. I still do my, common things, but I lost a lot of weight. And then when I came back my senior year, everybody was just like, who are you?
Yeah. You were unrecognizable.
Nobody knew who I was. Then all of a sudden, you know how it is. All the girls started to look and be like, who the heck is this guy?
Yeah. Who's the new guy?
Yes. Right. And, and then at the time, everybody had, the color contacts and all that. So I had like color contacts and all that. So it just kind of like went into that. But then I got the name given to me by our guy, Leo Ruiz.
Right? Yeah, Leo.
So Leo gave me the name, and he's like, "You're Slim now. I'm gonna call you Slim." And that's just kind of stuff.
So with Slim, Big Rob, Leo.
Yes, yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it kind of stood like that. And ever since then, I just been able to take care of myself, manage my weight, go to the gym, eat certain foods now and all that. And as we get older, which we are old, by the way, we don't look young on camera and stuff like that, but we're 99. Imagine that. And
that's a filter.
that is. So like for me, it was just kind of staying true, especially now in the past couple of years. Couple of things that happened personally, obviously, my father passing away and all that,
right?
Him being diabetic, and then also me looking at my long term. I decided to make an entire different switch with my diet and all that. I think it's important,
Very important, yeah.
But that's how it kind of went into that. So
nice. So we go through your 4 years. Now you're slim. You're no longer, no longer round and pudgy. Yeah. You're graduating. What was the next step after graduating?
So the next step for me was getting some advice from certain people, because I did not do as well as I did in grade school, right? Junior high and all that. Because I was experiencing life in that moment, right? Like what was happening, going through all the processes of everything. I had to go to community college to like get my grades back up to where I wanted to be, right? So as I did that, I went to Malcolm X College. And I'm sorry, I did not go to Malcolm X College. I went to Truman College.
Yeah.
So I went to Truman College and I did my 2 years there, studied there for math and science. My original way of like looking at what I wanted to do was I wanted to be an OB-GYN. And going through that process, I took a lot of different science classes and, your chemistry classes, and biology classes, microbiology, all those things, right? So I went through that process and then I got my grades back up, thank God. And as I went through that, I applied for Loyola University.
Nice.
Did my 2 years, put in the paperwork to transfer to Loyola. They accepted me.
Okay.
And then I went to Loyola University.
Nice.
Yes.
And then did you continue with that path for?
So I went to Loyola University for about 2 years. And then the story behind that, why I did not finish or complete, wasn't because I wasn't not going to finish it. It was because I had a financial aid, right? People were putting me in that side of it. And I qualified for it. And for some reason, the paperwork got lost, which happens a lot, by the way. And literally in the middle of my semester, going into my second semester, they're telling me that if I want to continue my education, I would now have to pay for the tuition,
right?
Which at the time falls on my parents. And then you know how much tuition is, even at that time.
Yeah, it was a lot.
It's a lot, right? So thankfully, what I ended up doing was I was starting to do marketing, events, promotions at that time. And I decided to kind of stick with what I was doing, which was more of the industry, the nightlife industry, if you will. It was not 21 and over at that time. It was more 18 plus. And, creating those events and experiences for people to come out, have a good time. We weren't really drinking, obviously, no Dat Slush available at that time and all that, but it was just something that we had a good vibe. People love, me personally, I love to dance. So if I like to dance Latino music, which is the bachata, the salsa, the merengue, even reggaeton and all that, that's what I kind of went into. And for me on my side, I started to curate those events to kind of put into perspective something that was going for fundraisers, obviously, because I was dealing with a lot of fraternities and sororities that were in the space as well. And starting a movement realistically that just did not exist at the time, right? So that's where I kind of like went into just kind of thinking about the options and not putting that stress on my parents to kind of come up with that. Kind of ventured off into that.
That's nuts, because I can't remember the name of the club. I know you guys hired me as security. It was like an EDM club for 18 and over.
Okay, so so as we're doing events and all that, the company name was called North Star Entertainment.
Yes.
And the story behind that is that my brother, DJ V, he goes by DJ V Algo. My brother's name is Victor, by the way, right? So Victor Hugo Alvia. But for me, it was always about promoting, elevating people, right? So my brother is a very amazing DJ. Not only a DJ, but just a producer, just a media guy.
Yeah.
He is a legit media guru in the sense, right? So for him to create all these things, I wanted to push. And, at that time, I was thinking about what's the best way to get him out there with his artistry, with his music, have people recognize him, and then compare him to somebody that's already playing on the radio, right? Like the Mixing Marks of the world.
Right. And remind you, this is early 2000s. The internet's not blown up yet.
It's not.
Right.
We had Napster back then.
Right, so, a Napster and LimeWire.
Yes. So, so like kind of getting him involved with some of the people that already made it in the sense of like what was popping right now in the 21 and over scene.
Right.
And people that were on the radio, the Julian Jim Perez's of the world, the Bobby D's, right? All that, the Hot Mix 5, the Bad Boy Bills and all that. So for me, it was like curating events, obviously getting the headliner, such as those, but also putting my brother in that space and category to create a bios and everything, because that's the way our flyers were. Like it told a story on the DJ, what they were about. And it kind of just took off from there, right? So the place you're talking about was called Industry. That's what it was.
That's the name of it? Oh, my God.
Right?
My God.
Just the name of it alone. It's like, oh, it's Industry. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Industry nightclub was what it was. It was in Melrose Park. And that was the event that really launched us. Just because I had booked all like the big talents that were on the radio, some of the ones that were in the underground rave scene at the time. And for me, it was important to grab DJs that you still hear today. The DJ like Extreme, or DJ Scream was one of them. Rampage was another one. There was Submerge 101. There was DJ Caffeine and all that. So like people that just kind of collaborating a mix of sorts, right? Maybe that still with me in the sense of creating multicultural to grab a little bit of everything, and make a good mix in the sense of that formula, and giving exposure to even those talents to be built with a guy like a Mixing Mark or an Alex Peace or a Bad Boy Bill, right? Julian Jim Perez. For them, those are the guys you hear on the radio, and radio was big at the time.
Yeah, radio's huge at the time. Right. So they're being put on like, think about it as like a boxing or UFC card. Like you have your heavy hitters, your main event.
Yes.
And if you're on that card, you're like, I was on a card with Bad Boy Bill.
Exactly.
And and it's also, you can put that in as part of your profile, right? Your portfolio. Like I worked with Bad Boy Bill. Exactly. As seen with
So as that all goes, DJ Funk, which was the biggest ghetto booty music, right? How do you call it today? Just like
Chicago House.
Chicago House.
Yeah, Chicago House.
Chicago Booty House. My brother would actually be killing me right now because he'd be like, it's called this, but like, DJ Funk was one of those guys that work it.
Yeah, you got the cassette tapes.
Yes.
You got the cassette tapes.
You had to get the cassette tapes. Then you got the CDs. And,
right.
And, kind of like putting all that together was something that, again, gave an opening to have some of the people that were going to be the next generation of talent.
Right. You have to continue to groom the young bucks so that at some point there's a nice transition as you aged out, because back in the day, we were listening to Eddie and Jobo. Eddie and Jobo are, they just came back. They're on like on the oldie station.
I have no idea.
Yeah. They just came back. They're on an oldie station. And I'm like, man.
You're giving away
we're old. Yeah, we're old. But I mean, come on. We used to like literally listen to them every morning, and we were like, oh man, it's such a cool thing. They used to do the skits, and then they would introduce new music, and you're like, oh man, we gotta go across the street to Just Dance and go get that tape or CD.
Yes, we had Just Dance.
Just Dance
across the street from our school.
Yeah.
So, yes, we had.
So all the DJs would get their stuff there. They would have promotions. B96 was one of their partners.
Yep.
So like it was legit the place to be for music. And then being across the street for us, it's like, man, did you get that new mixtape? Or did you get this? Did you get that? And it's like, and it was pricey back then.
It was pricey. I mean,
$18 for a tape or $25 for a CD.
Yes, like at least $14.99 and up, $21.99, like depending on what you were gonna get.
And $8-9 for a single.
Exactly. So
man.
No. And obviously, obviously all that changed now. But yes, at that time it was I guess it was just like a platform that people could utilize to try to get their music out there, and kind of tying it all together. Obviously, the way that we marketed our our brand and our product
Mhm.
was always about getting something that was creative and unique and different. Combining the people that, which I'm going to do a throwback now. We transitioned from that EDM market, right? 'Cause we
Right.
did a bunch of like big events, raves is what they were called.
Mhm.
Like that.
Yeah.
We had one that had like 4 rooms.
And it was progressive then at that point. Was it EDM? Yeah.
Well, DJ Marksky, right? DJ
Right.
Marksky was that guy.
Oh,
Like, he had
well,
his own store too on Belmont, and
Yeah.
we're talking about stores. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, like we, having contacted him and booking him and all that, it kind of introduced us to the music, which we did. We brought out those big time producers from Germany
Mhm.
or from Europe, basically, right? And they would come out here and they would perform, and people that knew the music or the songs, because that's my job now, is to put, for instance, we got a guy named DJ Scott Project, who was probably the biggest progressive DJ around at that time, right?
Mhm.
And for me to come out and contact him, book the talent, book the flights, book the hotel, where you stay, and all that, and having him come here was like a big scenario because the people recognized that music and they wanted to go listen to that song or that DJ produced that, right?
Right.
So obviously, like, that was big at that time, and it just kind of like evolved into something that I'm thankful for. Having the putting together the programming for it, saying, "Hey, I got these 2 DJs that know each other. You guys want to do a 4 DJ set for us and kind of like do something different, unique," which at the time was not being done.
Right.
Right. So doing all these different things that weren't being done at a typical other nightclub or event, the marketing promotion was there, and it kind of launched us into that space. Then it came time for a decision for us, and we had the opportunity to, which everyone will know from our generational group, to launch what everybody would know now today as Mambo Nightclub, right?
Wow. Mambo
days. Everybody's like, remember the Mambo days and all that? Yeah.
So the phone parties.
The phone parties, especially the models that were being brought out.
Yeah.
The go-go dance, like go-go dancers, were they naked? Like, no. They were just ambiance. It was people dancing on stage, the performances, the acts we put together. Like, that was like a mini talent show for us. And that's always been my point, right? Is to kind of get that talent and give them a chance to be on the stage, right? And you won't believe it, but like the people that grace our stages are actually in the big time now, right? An example, there was a group that was called Jóvenes del Swing, and the person that was the group leader for that, his name is Andy Lyric Cruz, and he's been out in LA now. He's been performing. He's kind of have his own thing out there. He's been with J-Lo. He's performed with different artists and all that, right?
Okay.
But it kind of like from seeing from where he grew up in and then where he's at now, it's kind of one of those things that's dope to say, I saw the potential of what they were doing and I wanted to contact them as well. It's brought to us, obviously, at the time by the partners that we have as well, but it's obviously us looking at it and seeing Mike has that final call to be like, hey, you want? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Like, I want to start doing this. Like, let's get people to perform in the dance groups and all that. Obviously, the Clubhouse Kids was another one, right? Which I'm segueing into because somebody we graduated with was Gabriel Ramirez. And he was on the radio for B96 Gabe in the morning, right? All that stuff.
Yeah. And now he's on 670 Score in the afternoons at times, but or Fox 32 with the Bears and the Fire and all that. So another successful lane tech.
Yes. So as all that kind of went into play, it was just the connection, because the person that graduated with me from my junior high here, my elementary school, he was one of those people that were in the group with him. And his brother happens to be a DJ that's known, which is DJ Metro. He DJs for the Chicago Bulls. You know, he's like DJs on the radio. He's known in that space of like launching him in, not us launching him, but us giving an opportunity to be like, yeah, DJ Metro, when he was only like 16 years old, was DJing with us and dancing and doing all these things. And nobody's like going to believe that in that way, you know? But it's one of those things where the platform was to have people being elevated. And the programming, I had to always program it in a way where I had to make sure that if I'm in a place or location, what do I want to listen to? Right? How do I want to listen to it? You don't want to get it oversaturated where it's just too much of one thing and you're like, it gets boring, right?
It does. It really does.
So I had to switch up the music and concept, and I got a bunch of those DJs one of the DJs was DMX official DJ Nonstop, right? And again, it's like to be able to have the official DJ for Nonstop for his entire life, his entire career, basically, when he got him in until he passed away, obviously. It's just one of those things where you're just fortunate and blessed. Reflecting back on it and thinking about it, I never really saw it that way. Right? I kind of just in the moment, like, yeah, you know, we're going to get these guys and this and that. But it just kind of went into that scenario where we just had something that nobody else did at that time. You know?
Yeah, and it's hard to appreciate, especially like when you're in the middle of the forest. You can't see the forest. You're just in the middle. You're surrounded by trees. All you see is big trees. You're in the middle. You can't really see what's going on. You think it's a big idea. You think it's a big process. You think it's a big guest or a big get, but you don't know the magnitude till afterwards. And when you reflect on it, and you're like, man, I did all of that. Yeah. I knew someone so when they were nobody, and look at them now. And it's not that you want to like jump on their coat, you know, their cape or whatever. That's not what you're trying to do. You're just trying to let the people know, like, hey, I gave them an opportunity. I'm pretty sure if I call them right now, they're pretty appreciative and they would do something for me because I gave them an opportunity. So you have lifelong friends with those connections, and that's something that's always been appreciated of you. You've always been a helpful person and always someone easy to connect with, easy to call. Hey man, I got this idea or whatever. Hey, let's go have lunch, whatever. You've always been that type of person.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so like once you got into that industry, and I'm like, man, dude, this dude is blossomed. This is where he should be. What were some of the difficulties in the clubbing atmosphere, or was it more the clubs? Was it the DJs? Was it what was some of the adversities that you faced doing that stuff?
The reality is that I didn't really see the challenges at first. Because we were doing something that nobody else at that time was putting together. And it just started to evolve more and more. So if I go from the Mambo days, which was an 18 and over, nightclub, if you will,
nightclub, right? Yeah,
that's what you would call it. So kind of like working just with fraternities, sororities for doing fundraisers, giving back, and just kind of like going back what you were saying was that I didn't recognize that platform that I was in. I never saw myself as like, I'm that guy, right? I just never saw it that way. And then kind of like looking at it and saying it wasn't to gain, or even now, I don't expect to call up anybody and be like, hey, can you do me a favor? It was never for that. It was always to give back to them or to kind of put them out there because I saw that talent. I really did. And I'm actually happy for them. You know, I'm happy for their successes and everything like that. But the challenges I would see now was that as I started to get older, as I went to the 21 and over market space, we got contacted by everybody. And not everybody has the opportunity to work with like the main promoters of Chicago now. Who are the main promoters of Chicago now? In the nightlife scene, you got to say V5 is the main Latino.
V5,
right? It kind of stood there.
What was it? CMN?
CMN is the other one, which is Cardenas Marketing Network.
Right.
And Cardenas, who realistically was a good role model for me to like look at. His entire work ethic, the way he actually was. It was something that, again, you get that wow moment when you're like in it, right? And doing events with him. Mind you, Henry Cardenas he doesn't do an event with nobody.
No.
Right?
It's either big or it's not happening.
Exactly. So to do a 50-50 split, right, with that owner.
That's huge.
Right. And mind you, for those that don't know who Henry Cardenas is, he's in the Billboard Top 100. Like he's one of the biggest promoters in the scene. He had Daddy Yankee as the exclusivity for him for a while, the Bad Bunnies as well when he first started, before he went to Live Nation, right? So if it's not going to Live Nation, it could end up with Henry Cardenas CMN. You know, he's the one that brings the Mark Anthony's. He's the one that brings the Manas.
Yeah.
He's the one that brings the Juanes and like all the other people that in that Latin culture, the Luis Miguel, he just did a tour with them. Look him up. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But that was something that I was like got introduced to, and I was fortunate enough to be in that space in that way, you know? So as it evolved, it just kind of like me getting some of that experience and me understanding where I was at. And the challenges for me was that now I'm working with the owners, right? Like just straight owners. And as they started to kind of see those things, they kind of like, I would always say that the biggest takeaway is maybe some type of fear, if you will, right?
They felt threatened.
Threatened. That's the best way to say it. If I was a threat coming out, who is this guy? Like who is this Mike guy? Like all of a sudden, and we see him everywhere. He's on the radio. He's doing this. He's bringing Aventura. He's bringing Pitbull. He's bringing Zion and Lennox. He's bringing Monch Alejandro. Like we're supposed to bring these guys. How is he grabbing these guys? Right
before they could, right?
Before they can, right? And I was able to do that. And because of those things, it led up to doing events and collaboration, partnerships, if you will. And thank God it all went well. And the sponsorships came, right? The sponsorships were another one. They actually, mind you, V5 and CMN at the time were the Latin market.
Yep.
You don't touch them, right? So I got a sponsorship. They decided to go with me, the young guy, right? I got Anheuser-Busch, worked with Bud Light, with Grosche Beer, which was a part of the portfolio. And they started to work with me. And then I started to do like events that to the day, I still haven't seen something of that nature put together, right? I had a concert on the Odyssey. Now everybody knows the Odyssey, okay, in Chicago. It's bigger than the Spirit of Chicago. It's the biggest like boat you can go on water with and all that. And, with Bud Light and all that, I put together something as a concert there, 3 levels of music and all that. So before all these parties that you see today were happening, right? Because you see all these booze cruises and all that.
No, yeah.
I mean, I had that in 2006, I believe, or something like that. And again, you don't think of it until later. And for me, it's not to say that, I was the first one to do it. It's not about that. It's just like reflecting on it, being like, man, like I didn't know I was putting all these things together in that way to make memories, by the way, for people,
right?
For them to have an experience that they can still talk about today. I think that's pretty dope.
Yeah, that sounds pretty dope. Yeah. So obviously that there's always, when you're doing something well, you're always going to have haters.
Oh yeah.
You're always going to have people trying to tear you down, start talking crap about you. I bring that up all the time because, I've worked with Mikey O. Mikey O is one of the biggest producers right now. Yes. Whether it's in comedy or salsa music or, he dabbles in a little bit of everything. So, he's always instilled on me. He's like, if you're putting out good content, doing something very well, people are going to hate on you.
Absolutely.
And, and I would call him and I'd be like, stressed about this and that, with the different podcasts. And I'm like, hey man, I'm really stressed about this. And he's like, why are you stressed? You're putting out good content. You're doing really good. You're not taking advantage of people. You're promoting people. You're doing the right thing. People will come. Just keep doing what you're doing. And I take it to heart because I remember seeing Mikey O late 90s, early 2000s. He was doing comedy. What was that? He did a show I forgot who the comedian was. It was a DJ at Kaboom, the old Kaboom.
Okay, old Kaboom. Yes.
Yeah, right there off of Chicago.
Yeah.
I know I never got to go there as an adult because it was already closed.
Yeah.
Was it Watra? Was another one his on some Pulaski, Southside. Yeah,
Southside,
right.
Watra.
I remember seeing him doing comedy there, and then he had after he had 2 or 3 comics, and then he had a DJ. And I remember those young days where he's selling T-shirts and doing everything himself. So he's like,
sure,
it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. Keep putting out good work. Be consistent. Treat people the right way.
Sure.
And then success will come. Don't worry about the success now. Put in the hard work and it'll come through. So I take stuff like that to heart. And that's what you were doing. You were doing it just, I want to do hard work and I want to do great things. I'm not looking at the success factor.
Right.
But you also,
at the time I was not looking at it.
No. And we're kind of similar. We're like, all right, what's the next challenge?
Yes.
What's the next challenge? How can we make this bigger?
Exactly.
All right. So you did the boats.
Yes.
Now how do we make it bigger?
For me, it was actually doing the concerts, obviously.
Yeah.
It was taking it to arenas and or theaters, basically.
Right.
Or kind of putting together something that, again, for me, it's always about the first time experience, something that it just hasn't got done, pioneering, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And I can look at that and say it now. But was I looking at that then? No, I just didn't want to get repetitive with doing some of the same things and kind of do it because I understand what that's like, right? You see some of the same things over and over again. You're like, it gets boring after a while.
Right.
And especially in today's age, the attention span of people is like quick and fast and all that. And I totally understand that. So for me, it was just more or less creating unique experiences, um, moments of everything, and it just kind of transitioned into all of that. When mind you, like having exclusivity even with Pitbull,
Hmm.
many people don't know that. I had exclusivity with Pitbull for about close to 2 years, and had a great time in the sense of learning. They call me Money Mike, right?
Here comes the money.
Right. But
Money, money, money.
I didn't see all those things. I just kind of kept everything more professional. I never got starstruck, by the way, by any of these guys. Working out with Romeo Santos, Aventura,
Mhm.
finding a barber to come out. Like the barbers, like to this day, is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe like you called me to. This is my own barber. I'm like, I trust you, bro. Like, I know
If you cut my hair, you can cut his hair.
exactly. So like all those type of things were something that I kind of saw, and I just felt that as it kind of transitioned and went from all of that to the concerts and then kind of falling into the whole CMN thing, going through the challenges of a threat, right? Like feeling that
Mhm.
I kind of understood it later on that that's what it kind of went through. It had to go through that process of them taking me out the game, right? Because when I went to CMN, I wasn't doing any more North Star Entertainment. I wasn't doing the concerts. I kind of dedicated myself to being there.
Okay.
And I saw that in a sense afterwards saying, well, maybe they just wanted to take me out the game, right? 2006 comes. Now we got to come up with something new, right?
Mhm.
2006. And the story for that is that what we know as people going to the club now and doing bottle service and all that, it kind of went into that space of looking at what nobody was doing at that time.
Mhm.
Because if you were clubbing in 2006, the majority of people were going to the nightclubs and buying a wristband.
Right. You get there early, you get a wristband, you drink from so time to so time. It's well and domestic drinks, and you have that time to drink and get inebriated. In other words, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And again, lane tech connection. I had somebody that was a business partner for me and the
Mhm.
brand that we created at the time. Once I went post CMN,
Okay.
and it was something that I started to look at because I was going out with him. I would meet him up at Buzz nightclub, right? And we were there
Wow.
on a Thursday, right? Or
Yeah.
Buzz Wednesdays.
Buzz Wednesdays.
Buzz Wednesdays. So Buzz Wednesdays was the spot to go to. And we would go there, and we're also like, the college, we're professionals in the sense and all
Mhm.
that. And, we're buying bottles at the bar, and we're allowed to like do that with the place. And like, we're spending about, 300, 500 bucks, like just spending, but between all of us, like we would just grab it. And I fell into that. Right.
Mhm.
But as it went, it's like, it still wasn't bottle service.
Right.
And my entire background of me having my experiences of being a waiter at Cheesecake Factory, at the Olive Garden, and all that,
Mhm.
I got to be able to understand what service
Mhm.
is about. It's called
Okay.
bottle service, right? So we introduced that. We introduced that in 2006 at a place called Zocalo in downtown. It was a Mexican restaurant.
Yeah.
Very good food. The drinks were good too. The main the beverage director.
It was a better Lalo's. Way better Lalo's.
Basically.
Yeah, essentially because it's a Mexican restaurant, it serves great food, and that night, move the tables out the way,
Yes.
dance floor, it's a party.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yes. So, I talked with the owners and they kind of understood my background, and we started something new. And that's where bottle service for the Latino market
Mhm.
started.
Mhm.
No one else was doing it. Nobody else was going into that capacity because they were all doing wristbands, to the point where you were kind of referenced to that, you start getting those like haters or competition.
Mhm.
So all the main promoters started to come by, right? They started to come by and started to look at it. The V5s, right? The guys from V5, the guys from One World Entertainment at that time, right?
Where was One World at? Like, what did they promote?
So they were the ones that did start Green Dolphin.
Oh, okay.
Right? Before it became the other Green Dolphin.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So it was still one of those things where it was more trendier. It was more upscale, if you will, because that's what we used at the time, right? It's upscale atmosphere, all that, and the trendy vibe. And we launched it there. And with one of my people that I came together with, his name is Beto Gutierrez, right?
Beto. Shout out Beto.
Shout out to Beto. We just started coming up with it, and we knew the importance of, if we're going out to a place, we want to be treated this, we want to treat even our consumers, our guests, our friends, basically, that were celebrating their birthdays with us, or their entire experience, or whatever they were going through, right? Graduations or anything like that. We decided to put together experience, and I had to formulate that scenario, how to service it, how to look at, the person drinking the bottle. And mind you, at the time, they're not popping 10 bottles at one time. You're popping one bottle, you're having the experience, you're getting it poured to you, you know exactly what it's about. You're not, you can have sparklers and all this stuff like that, but we didn't have the models and the girls that dress up today, which is now what it turned to.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, you get a bunch of baddies now. At the time, we had shot girls, right? We had the go-go dancers.
Right.
You don't see that really anymore. Now you just see the bottle girls, who are the eye candy of the night for any establishment that has them, right?
Right.
So it kind of transitioned into that, but then the service slacked. And in Chicago, once I guess the people started to copy it, I understand it, but I'd never understood why they weren't on top of like the training process of showing them what it's truly about. Also, if you're able to sell that bottle for whoever knows how much the bottle price is worth, like how much the markup is, like 10 times more of what is the bottle's actually
sometimes 100 times more. Jesus Christ.
Depending on the market where you go to, right? So as it went into that, I understood that it was more about making that income, generating the money and all that. And then everything, again, when it's driven by money and just money, then the quality starts to lack, because then people don't take the initial, like, especially if you're a young, pretty girl who's natural at that time, all natural, by the way, right? Nowadays, you got people that are all like put together.
Yeah, they got the Barbie doll experience, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
So, you don't mind somebody coming in and spending $10,000 on a table, right? And people are like, man, you're buying $10,000 for a bottle. That bottle only costs like $50, or, like, you're dumb. It's like, but you're not really paying for that. You're paying for the entire experience. Right. So as people start to kind of go through that process, they evolved it in a different way that I was never a big fan of. I was always more supportive about, if you're coming with the group, yes, there's a minimum. If you're coming in with 15 people, at least buy 2 bottles, 3 bottles. Right. And then kind of go from there. And again, curating the ambiance, the music was important for me. The DJs that were performing, the people that were coming in, again, people are going to hate on me. This is probably why people looked at me at the time, because I was the door guy, in the sense, right? I was out there kind of screening people and making sure that they fit the par, because I didn't want it to get in the sense of what you see today, like ratchet and like.
Well, there's no standards to get in.
Right.
And I get it. We're in a different environment, different like era, right? And we talk about it with everything. Everything's evolved. I mean, back in our day, right? You go to the club, you have to be dressed a certain part. There was no gym shoes. You had to wear slacks. You had to wear a button down. Like, you had to come presentable to the club. The ladies would dress up in dresses.
Oh my gosh.
Right. They came dressed to the tens. Yeah. The dudes came in either in a suit or whatever. They're dressed very well. Yes. And it's a presentation. It elevates the atmosphere and what are you doing? Now everything's just so relaxed, and everyone just sits down and no one's dancing.
Nope.
Everyone has their phone out.
It's like a high school dance with phones.
Basically. Right. Everyone's just hanging against the wall, not doing anything. And it's just like, then what's the point? And I know you know this now, but like, clubs are suffering right now because no one's going to them anymore.
Are there still really nightclubs in Chicago?
I don't know,
because I don't. What I start seeing now is that they do like the crossovers. They do the quote unquote, I'm a restaurant, but I'm now a nightclub at night.
What's the one that was on Lake? Or it's still there?
Which one? Lake Street and
by the
A58?
No, that's closed. That's a piano bar now.
Okay.
So west of it.
Was it a restaurant?
No, it looks like a big factory, and they had the parking lot next to it, and then the park.
Chromia?
Yes. I don't know what it is now. It's something else.
It is actually a space, I think, now.
I've driven by and there's people going to it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who goes there?
Yeah. Again, for me, the nightlife industry, the nightclub and all that, it's just not what it is anymore. I think people have transitioned. That not a lot of people, especially in the generations coming in, are looking at, let me go to the club and let me do that.
They're also not drinking either.
They're also not drinking.
Right.
They're doing other things as well, right? But at the same time, though, kind of going back to where you were at with like the dressing, the formal dressing and all that. We went that way because if you're coming out to celebrate your birthday and it's a big occasion, you're celebrating 25 years, 30 years, 35, 40 years of life, you want to make sure that you're dressed apart. You're taking pictures, right? Mind you, we also have photographers that were not being done from other people.
I remember that. Yeah.
So we had people at that time, I was like, photographers, why? We got fun. Like, it's not like that nowadays, right? So people were like, the content that we were grabbing was something that was so different. It was taking those memories of you remembering where it was when I turned 21 or when I was 30 or 40 or when I graduated. My graduation party was at this spot and this spot and that spot. And we had that content that people went to our pages, specifically our .com, to go look at these pictures or download them because we had it available that way. And this is where, again, separated us from the pack, right? We just kind of had something that nobody else has, including the website. Like at the time, it went from North Star Entertainment to the Entourage Group. And everybody knew us as Entourage.
Right.
We also created the system of having a password to get into these establishments. Nobody had that. You had to show the text message.
Yes, I was going to say that. You have to sign up through email, put your phone number, then you would get the text message, hey, come this day, this is what's going on.
Data collection is premature time.
Yes, that's exactly what that is.
Now you just get everything online, basically.
Yeah.
You don't even know. Click here and sign up. Yes. Okay, good. Now you have all your information.
Yeah.
No, but like that's where it all started. And we created something that was kind of different or unique. And people were coming up and saying the password is Entourage. And then people would say that. But you could tell the difference of the consumer coming in. We're talking about people that now have their own businesses today, people that went to college, people that went to the UIC, which is Lane Tech 2, by the way. That's why he's like, his junior high or his college high was basically tech, right?
Lane Tech,
and now UIC became whatever it was.
Yep.
But that's the scenario, though. It's that we went through that process of creating something different, and people loved it. And then guess what? Now you went back to it like a couple of a while back, basically, about talking about like the haters and things of that nature, and what happens with like people in it. It's just started to copy exactly the same things we were doing, right? So the interesting fact is that I did make a bet with Frank Monroy, V5, right? And he's like, this is at Crowbar now. Crowbar days. Everybody knows about Crowbar, right? So it was our 1-year anniversary, and he literally said, you're not going to sell all the tables. He's like, if you sell all the tables, I'm going to give you X amount more. It's like thousands, basically, right? So I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to sell it out.
Bet. Watch this.
Ching, ready to go. So yeah, we sold out every table. And then, mind you, they're still doing wristbands and all that. They're still doing all these things. And they're like, we got to start getting into that market space. And now everything that you see, because V5, I'm going to give them the kudos because they stood to it, right? I know all the partners that were originally involved in V5. And now he kind of standalone, did his buyout, whatever he does now at the end of the day. In terms of business, he kind of stuck with business and is the face of it, if you will, behind the scenes and all that, right? So in that way, it just became something where, like, you know, they started to see that we were just always ahead of the curve, if you will, right? We're the ones that bring in something that nobody else really had at that time. And it just kind of blossomed in that way. And then obviously, as time went on and me kind of, you know, dealing with the politics now of the nightlife industry, getting screwed over by the owners or going into collaborations with other promoters at that time, and then getting backstab, basically. Right. If we're an establishment and now we're looking to move because we did our 2-3 years at this space and we got to go to somewhere that's going to stay open till 5 o'clock in the morning or whatever, let's go together. We're the team. But guess what? No. So they cut me out in that way. Again, right? Try to get me out the game. Get me out the game. Mike is dangerous or something. I don't know what it is. Like, geez. But yeah, like it just became that. And I decided to take a break. So when I took that break, it kind of adjusted my way of thinking about, you know, I did my time. Like I've been in the space for X amount of time. I think 2012 is when I kind of like officially quit the industry space at that time.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
And I went into a corporate job and I got the opportunity and I did, you know, it was a brand specialist basically. So anything to do with marketing and collateral and, you know, you can get printed, basically, I was able to do it. So anything you can see printed, I worked for a company that was in that space, right? I would be the procurement guy in the sense to go out and hustle price, if you will,
Right.
to try to get a better competitive price point for the customer and knock it down, anywhere between 10 to 30%. And mind you, that's 10, 30% for the customer. So now I'm negotiating with the suppliers and the people, or bringing a supplier that I know about that's able to meet the requirements for that specific project for the client, right? And it was a good time for me to kind of learn about the scope of flyers and all that. Because again, as a promoter, you're used to getting flyers done, your business card, your t-shirts, or anything. No, this was everything. That can you have right there to get printed, the little koozie thing you got there to get printed, all the stuff you see on the mic, like it's branded, like all of it. It explored me into a world that I just again got to a wow moment. Right? It was always another step of I went through this. I thought that was it, and now you open another door, and it's like, oh snap! Right? You see how big and massive it is, and it became more of a global footprint to work with that, right? So that's my transition from nightlife and going into corporate world. And that happened from 2012 to about end of 2015, around that time. And that's kind of how it sums up at that point right there. So,
dude, it's like you live so many lives.
I have.
And it's I have the similar story as well. Doing a bunch of things, and people are like, what job have you not had? I'm like, well, I haven't had Mike's job. That's it.
Yeah.
I hung out with Mike because Mike was cool, and Mike was always at the party. But yeah, definitely, a lot of it is, if it's not making you happy, you gotta let it go.
Yeah,
you were super stressed. I remember that.
It did. It actually took a toll on me and the person that at the time I was with in a relationship, and all that. I respect her so much, even to the day,
right?
Because we were young, obviously, different times and all those things like that. But I remember going on vacation with her, and being on vacation with her, the people that we went into business with, right? We had a Thursday night that was done in downtown Chicago, and we moved to the new location because that venue had to close down. So we moved our night concept to another location. Well, now another person's collecting the checks. Right. Another person's the one that's handling the numbers and the money and all that. And then all of a sudden I'm out there and I'm expecting to get, my deposit or whatever it was, or my check and all that. And they withheld the money. Okay. So for me, I'm like, mind you, I'm in Vegas now. So Vegas is not necessarily the cheapest place to be, especially when
even back then.
And I didn't go, mind you, the weirdest part, everybody says man, Mike, you're in that nightlife space. You must go out to party all the time. And I was
complete opposite.
Yeah, I was always going out to enjoy the experience of going to Vegas. So what people know as Vegas today, and what they see, the pool parties and the casinos and all that, I never really experienced it that way. I went to experience it more in the sense of the romantic side, right? Going to the Grand Canyon, going out to the Hoover Dam, right? Taking those trips in a way. And I remember getting that put down on my end, and the person that was with me, we went on a road trip, by the way, we drove out there. She actually said, I got you, and I felt fuck, what's going on here? So when I started to kind of see those things that were happening internally, the backstabbing of the politics and all that, it took a toll on me.
Of course it does.
Emotionally, it took a toll on me. People whispering in people's ears, right? That I didn't even know about until years later.
Yeah.
And that person that whispered into the ear, quote unquote, not me, someone else, right? Said, he's worse than you in a sense, because he thought that I had done something that wasn't on the up and up. And that's never been the case. I was always taught by my father that you go down to the cent. Go down to the last cent. If it's this, you split it equally. You never go down to the necessary of you trying to keep an extra few dollars. What I mean, no. And that always stood with me with the virtues that I've had growing up. And even to this day, it's one of those things where I'm too nice, if you will, at some point.
Yeah.
And I think even some of the challenges in what's facing with even this business right now, right, is that I'm the person that has the mindset, or can see it And then when I show it and I do it, and then all of a sudden they get to see all the process and they're like, okay, they understand it. Oh, it's that's it. Like I simplify it so much to make it like, just to make it simple, basically. Right.
Yeah. For understanding.
And that's it. And then again, getting those things that happen when you get betrayed or whatever it may be, it just took a toll on me. And then I just decided to venture into the whole corporate world in 2012. That was a decision I made for myself. I had to kind of get something else to experience what it was like. And thank God, I did very well in that.
How long did you do corporate life?
About 4 years.
So
let's say 3.5. It was about 3.5 years that I did it. Only reason why I'm not in the corporate world even today was that I didn't want to do sales anymore. Okay. I was out of 130 people that got brought in for the small division, you can say, that was in there, a small business division. I lasted basically one of the last 5 that were there. And we started getting big accounts, like big accounts. Aqua Hydrate was one of my accounts at that time, which is Mark Wahlberg's like water that he promotes right now. He runs his own brand and all that. And I had that on my side, and I was able to create certain things that they needed, right? They needed to do like their labels. They needed to do like their packaging, or like their point of sales, where they would have like their waters and all those things, right? So me kind of doing all those things, it's like I was doing it, and I was staying long hours. I was there at 9 o'clock in the morning. I wouldn't leave sometimes until 8 or 9 o'clock at night, talking to my clients that were in the West Coast. So for them, it's important for me to stay there. And as I started to see the opportunities of me just doing sales, I didn't want to just do sales anymore, right? I wanted to start doing marketing again. I wanted to start being able to put my own skill sets into different spaces. And unfortunately, the opportunity for, I guess for them even, like they didn't want me to go into those spaces. They had all these job openings, by the way, all these job openings. And they just didn't see it. And then my decision was like, I got a call from my new manager who was out in New York. And he's like, yeah, we want you to kind of stay in the same position. But if you don't want to, do it anymore, then we don't have any other place to put you in.
Wow.
Right. So I was like, all right. Mind you, this actually took me back to the time that I went in 2006. So I was actually in marketing, but I was so used to doing the events and the concerts and all that. I wanted to kind of be on the tours and do all that. And I had the same conversation with the owner at the time, right? With Henry Cardenas. And it was like, I want to do something else. Like I've already been here and I've already done all these other things. Like I want to start to grow within the company. Right. So, he didn't have anything at the time, which at the time was true. Is like, they're not, even though they're big, they weren't like super big with all these like hundreds of employees and all that at the time. Right. So, I understood it, and we had a respect and mutual saying we're parting ways. I never got fired, never got let go. It was just something I said, I'm going to go and spread my wings now, basically. So I left corporate world in 2015, November of 2015. And this is where the family business came into play, because my dad started having some health issues, which I didn't know were as severe, right? 2015, mind you. November of 2015, I come into the business at a very small percentage, working my way up in the sense to prove that I can be that equal partner, if you will, right? And what ended up happening was that my father passed away in October of 2020. Okay. So for me to think that he only lasted 5 years from that transition to where he was at, I would never expect that. No. Right. And I did it for my family. I said, okay, everything that I've learned, everything that I've been doing, everything that I've had now, even in my company business, in my corporate business, and me coming into play, like I brought all those information, everything that I was doing, and brought it over. Right. So in me doing that, I thought it was going to be something as an easy transition and all that. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Right. And it was, for me, it was like, I still ended up having the business at some point and all that, but that was never my goal, to take over the business and have it.
You were trying to just enhance it while you're there.
Yes. I was trying to modernize it.
Yes.
I was trying to update whatever systems that my parents did not do because they're traditional, right? They don't know about computers. They don't know about the internet. They don't know about social media. They don't know how to take media. They don't know how to do anything on Google, right? Like they had no idea of all these different things that were being put out there.
Right.
And what's new to them, and mind you, it's kind of like that old saying, which is a very dumb saying, by the way. If it's not broken, why fix it, right?
Right.
Again, it doesn't have to be broken. You're not fixing it.
Just be updated.
Just updating it, right? Yeah. A person gets a brand new car, they're gonna keep it like that. Hey, I want to put some rims on it, man. Right? I want to put like the nice like LED lights on it now.
Yeah, tint it up and definitely.
Tints, whatever you want to do to it, right?
Right.
But that's what it's about. It's dressing whatever you have and kind of saying, all right, I want to put the sprinkles on it now, right? That's all it is. And unfortunately, and I understand it, like not a lot of people, especially in Latino America, right? Like Latin America is like synonymous for that. Minority, let's just say minority in general.
Okay.
Right? They kind of have that mindset where they're so stuck on their ways and not trying to evolve it, right?
Yeah, like vanilla ice cream is really good to eat, but then when you start putting some toppings on it and sprinkles and all that, it tastes a lot better. And now you can charge more.
Exactly, right? So again, those type of things were butting heads in a sense at that time, but then I just started to do what I had to do for the business. And it's kind of sucks in a sense because I know that for me to, again, put in those long hours, staying at 6 a.m, all the way, maybe even sleep. I probably slept a few times at the office over there because I was doing so much, right? And no one's there to help facilitate or help. No help from the parents because they don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
They're thinking what I'm doing is like, what are you doing? Like,
it doesn't make any sense.
They don't get it, right?
No, they don't get it.
And I was putting together all the updated content that we never really had at the business, right? And the branding behind it. And then also putting together, you can say, the technology behind it, right? How to book the appointments and streamline the entire process. Mind you, I started using the word streamline because I learned that in my corporate job. When I brought streamlining into the actual business and with my family, they're like, what are you talking about? You don't make any sense, man. You don't make any sense. I'm like, it's streamlining the process. And they're like, you're just talking crazy. Like they really thought I was like out there, right? Again, that's my bad for not recognizing it earlier. But I understand it though. It kind of like made me again create something that to this day doesn't exist, right? So for all those that don't know, my parents had a driving school called Amigo Driving School. And over 23 years in business that they ran it. They actually bought it in 95. So when I went to Lane Tech, that's when they first started the venture right together. And about 2015 or so, about 2018, they were still involved in some way, but not really. They were giving transition to us, right? So as that happened, it just became something where me looking at what's going to happen for this next generation coming in. So as the family kind of like got into some battles, if you will, right, from both sides,
right?
It just kind of went into a different way, and it's unfortunate because I felt that even today we would have something that nobody else has, which was I put an app together. Right, I actually put the app together to get it approved by Apple, which is not easy, by the way. It takes some time to do that. Yeah. And it was more for people to have the, not the exact version of the test, but something that was similar, something that people can actually read in English and in
Spanish, right?
I had it in both languages. And again, technology now was driving at that time because guess what? 2018, 2019, the Secretary of State started changing the written test, which we call the written test, to now digital. So it's like a touch screen.
You gotta tablet,
go there. It's a tablet. And they're like, oh, you gotta touch it. You gotta do all this stuff. And everybody was scared, especially the minorities, especially Latinos. They're like, they don't know how to use their phones, right? They don't know how to use computers. They just know how to write. And then some people don't know how to read, right?
Yeah.
Right? They literally.
All right. Yeah.
So all those things were happening, and I had people that would come in and they were I would help them. I would train them. I would teach them and tutor them, make it easier for them, guide them through that. And they would get, once they went to take the exam, and people that don't know how to read and all that, I had to like put on the headphones, have them say what they got to say, and then you're listening to what, and now you're pushing the button or whatever it is, right? And they would pass. I had people come in crying at times, right? They would be like, I would never think I could do this. Like, thank you so much.
Right.
That was something that filled my heart, right? Like it just made me feel good.
Yeah.
Right. To help somebody that they didn't think they could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the point of that, it was that I was able to create something that wasn't going to be just local Chicago. It's a Secretary of State. It's Illinois in general.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So everything in the sense that I'm doing now with the brand that I have, which is creating like the franchise of it or the concepts of it, the instruction guides to it, the manuals to it, the processes of the business, putting everything together. That took a long time, right? Especially with something that even though it was the family business, it's not like mom and dad sat down with me and told me, hey, X, Y, and Z. And if they did, it's outdated.
Yeah.
Right. So taking that time of putting that together was something that I still have it all, by the way, right? And it still doesn't exist. So I don't see nobody that can download an app right now to kind of get that training, if you will. And that would have helped out people all across the Illinois area, not just Chicago, right? And I had people from Joliet, Waukegan, Aurora calling us because their amigo is amigo.
Right. Once the word gets spread out, you're the number one person for that, right?
So again, it went through that process. And then as time went on, I had to make a decision for myself at the end of the day.
Okay.
Right. And it just made more sense for my younger brother at the end of the day to now grab the job.
Okay.
Right? Because I didn't qualify for personal reasons on my side. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind sharing it, but for right now.
No, we're good with it. Yeah.
Right.
Leave it there.
So for me, it was like personal reason I couldn't do it, but I kind of went through that space of giving the entire everything. Here it goes.
Here's everything laid out to you. It's streamlined.
It's done. Now you just got to implement it in your day to day, whatever.
Right.
But again, people can see it and be like, "Nah, I'm good." So it's like grabbing everything and just literally grabbing everything, seeing the garbage can, and then throwing it away.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to do it this way. So again, I can understand it, but today it would have been something tremendous to have that.
That would have been something that you could have literally gone to the Secretary of State. Here's my proposal. This is what I like to do. I'd like to partner up with you.
Absolutely.
I like to be your official driving school per se,
Yes.
right? Whatever affiliation we can come up with or agreement. It's in English. It's in Spanish. It's on an app. There's an auditory part to it, so they can listen to the questions, even though they may not be able to read the questions.
Yes.
Hello.
It's just
cha-ching.
It's walking them by their hand, like
yes.
Literally, like that's how a lot of people felt that way, though. You know, like they wanted to like have you hold them by the hand and walk them through the entire process.
I know,
and because you teach well. So
yeah, I do that for a living on a daily, but I also did that when I was working in Pilsen in banking. Literally, early 2000s, internet's out, online banking.
Yes.
And, because the elderly people will come in, take cash out and buy money orders and then mail them. I'm like, okay, so you're spending $1.50 for every money order. You're spending 37 cents, whatever it was, for every stamp.
Yeah.
So you're paying $2 to pay your bill.
Yeah.
Can I save you $40 a month?
Exactly.
They're like, what? Yeah, let me show you how to save you $40 a month. And then walk them through. I'm like, look, we're going to set you up. Here's going to be a username. Here's your password. And bring me all your bills.
Absolutely.
And then I set them up and I'm like, look, it's going to pay it automatically for you. Or you can say, I want to pay it so-and-so date whenever you want. And teaching them how to do that. I literally had lines of like 25 people just waiting for me to help them do that.
And I understand that entire process because that typical mom, right?
In
a sense, or like the grandmother or the grandfather would be like, yo no sé usar esas cosas. No, déjame así lo que sea. Like they didn't want to.
No, they're stubborn because they're stuck in their ways.
Yes.
And then once you explain to them, like, look, your money's still there.
Yeah.
You get to decide when that money leaves.
Yes.
Or you can set it up to it goes out when you get your check. Your Social Security check comes in at first. that money will be sent on a third. So there's money in there,
Right.
and we set it up. And then you can look at your bank account online or on your phone, or you can come in here and see me. Did the check go out? And I'll give you the thumbs up. Are you good to go? And again, it is a process to re-teach the generation that remember, they had no internet, they had no phones. I mean, it was a dial-up, like whatever, a rotary phone. That's what they had.
They
So
had none of that.
They had none of that stuff. So it's really retraining them and making them understand that we're trying to facilitate and streamline your process, so that way you're not wasting time, you're not wasting money, and it takes time. It does.
And you're going green, by the way, which is important.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. But again, you do it because you want to help them out.
No, absolutely. And mind you, having my parents, obviously, that never dealt with that scenario, even to this day, everything you just mentioned, I had to do that for my own mom.
Yeah.
Who I had to put all her bills on ePay, how to do it and do that. And she trusts me because she knows, she knows that that's where it kind of went to, right? It kind of went to that scenario of okay, we're going to, can I have access to it? I'm like, absolutely. I ain't touching that. It's all for you to see it.
Right.
But you have to understand, as parents go older, they're also more limited to their visibility to see their phones,
right?
To push the buttons, right? And do all those things. So they have to go ahead and do something.
Forget about when there's an update on your iPhone, right? Or your Android phone. Forget about it.
Exactly. So somebody has to kind of guide them through that, which for me, I don't tell my mom, anybody basically, if they want the help for me to help them, I'm going to help them in that scenario.
Yeah.
Right. I don't see any type of value for me to charge somebody to do that.
No.
Right. That's coming out of your kindness of your heart as a person, as a human being.
Right.
Right. So yeah, all that stuff was a challenge. And again, as it transitioned, people just get scared. And I totally understand it. Right. It's their first time doing something like that, especially when it has to deal with finances or money. People get afraid, and rightfully so. They should be worried about explanation, the detail, the process of what it is. And just in case, what happens, right? If they get locked out of their account or something goes on, and mind you, this happens
a lot. They forget the password.
Yeah, I did. I'm like, no, you didn't do it the right way. I'm like, all right. So again, it's more for understanding that for us, it's so simple and easy, but for somebody else, it's rocket science.
It really is. It really is. Yeah. I think we're at a good time right now, but before we get out of here, I want to ask one of the questions I want to start asking all of my guests is what makes you happy?
What makes me happy is waking up every single day and having another day to live. I'm glad you asked that, actually, because I had to do a lot of soul searching this past year. And obviously, with anything that I do, it's the business that I have, the responsibilities I have on a day in, day out basis, including with managing houses or properties and all that stuff as well. It's not as simple as people may think, right? But I actually get a joy of looking at what the future can hold in that way. And mind you, not everything's promised or given for tomorrow and stuff like that.
Correct.
But I've learned to do something that I started doing back in 2015, 2016, when I made the decision of leaving corporate world to go help the family out, right? I was just being thankful every day. Waking up, first thing I do is thank you, God, for another day of life, right? Thank you, God. And at nighttime, kind of seeing everything and recapping all of it and being, doing my prayers basically and my spirituality.
Okay.
I think what makes me happy is my spirituality and the fact that I know that I have an amazing, tremendous God, my Holy Trinity, right? I say Dios because it's God, right? Spanish mutation, but Dios. Christ, and then mi Espíritu Santo, or my Holy Spirit, right? So the Holy Spirit, Christ, and Dios. And that's my Holy Trinity for me. That's what makes me happy, to be able to know that he gave me another opportunity to wake up and get to accomplish whatever I didn't get accomplished the day before, or kind of look forward to the things that I do have maybe planned out. And then helping people or creating something as good, as the brand would be, right?
Right.
So that it can also help bring people to their business or give something of different that pleases families as well. That's what it transitioned to, by the way. It started off with the whole party vibe thing and everything else like that. But for me, as time went on, I started to understand that, the kids wanted to partake in it. So at the end of the day, I think it's just, helping people to achieve whatever they're looking to do long term in their goals, um, teaching things as well, and being humble with all of that. That's actually what makes me happy on a single day basis. Like for instance, watching right now, my nephew, my nieces, right? I don't have kids of my own,
Right.
but to be able to see my younger brother, who's an amazing father, by the way, to do what he's doing, and me to kind of be there to see how they've been brought into the world and how they've evolved and grown, and they're good kids, right? Like they're really good kids. Thank God. And for me to see that, and to now also be able to help, like my niece Aaliyah, she started basketball this year.
Nice.
So basketball for us is like, hey man, like we're gonna go to the gym and get to it and all that, and to kind of teach her in that way, and then showing how much when she first started to where she's at now, and mindfully so, it's my younger brother who pushes her like a lot in that sense to get into it, right? It just makes me feel good that I'm able to even give some type of input and then show her. And then now she does it to me, which is funny because she's like posting me up, like boom, boom. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, yes. And then when she does it, I'm like, yes, that's the way to do it.
Right.
Like, that's the way to go. That's what brings joy to me, man.
That's amazing. It's amazing. As we get older, we start appreciating all the small things.
Yes.
And that's what life's all about, is appreciating every single moment that you're in. Stay present in the moment, and be a good person, man. Just be a good person.
Always be a good person. There's a lot of people that don't have the same opportunities. And when you think you have it going bad, the reality is that there is somebody else that has it worse right now. You have
a roof over your head. You got some little bit of cash in your pocket. You're paying your bills. You're already advanced and you're living life the right way. So
yeah, thank God. By the way,
yeah.
all glory to God for me. I think that's always putting him first, and then trusting that he just knows best for me. That's the route I'm taking now moving forward, and I'm just thankful now. I'm glad that he was able to answer some of the prayers that I had, like for real. And with that being said, it was just something that I just want to spread that message of love. Like, unconditional love is unconditional love.
Correct.
Sometimes you think because you're asking for something, for instance, and you want that. It's like getting like for your kids, you're like, I want that candy bar. And their mom says no. Or today's generation be like, I want that tablet. And you're like, no, right? It's sometimes it's not good for you.
Right.
But because we're stuck in our own ways of saying, we want that. And then all of a sudden, like, no, why? It's because you have to start to understand that with God, his timing and what he knows you need, he's already written in the sense for you, right?
Wants and needs a difference. There's a big difference in wants and needs.
Absolutely. So I think that's where it kind of goes into, and I just feel blessed in that way,
That's amazing. All right, brother. Thank you for being InPodSicated with me. We'll do this again in 6 months, see what the next adventure may be, or the next adventure that you're in.
Slush bus. No joke. Slush bus.
Okay. All right.
A couple of things in the works, obviously, for this year. Thank you, by the way.
No,
I
man.
totally appreciate this.
No, this is the highlight, you, man. This ain't about me.
Well, you know what? I appreciate the platform for me to kind of say some of these things and all that, but in that same respect, I do want to give you also props and credit, because nobody can see this right now, but the way he just kind of came in here to put this all together, all last minute in the sense, we talked about it yesterday and all that, and his whole little setup he has right now, it's very awesome, by the way. And then you got to also take, kudos.
I will appreciate it. Yes, because everyone doesn't know what they're doing at the beginning, and it's my journey has been a wild one into podcasting, and I'm blessed to be able to buy equipment and continue to upgrade and be able to do things like have conversations with one of my good friends, my best friends, people that are successful from Lane Tech, or even sometimes I have celebrities on. And at first I get geeked about it, and then I'm like, okay, they're just a person. Let's just do this.
Yeah.
And again, I am blessed to do this. This is my fun time. I don't see it as work. Once you start doing something that you love and it becomes work, you got to move on to something else that you can find love in.
Absolutely.
You got to find peace in everything you do. Again, brother, thank you for being positive with me. We'll do this again, brother.
For sure, brother.